Is on the way, but first we have a warm front that's making a stop right along our coast and right on through the South Sound, following a similar trail to what it did last night. Tonight we're out with Seattle SWAT. They're giving us an exclusive look at some of their behind-the-scenes training. The house where the murder happened is still here on 21st Avenue in Seattle, and so are the unanswered questions of what happened to Marcel. So I have to ask you, what do you do when you find snow? You build a snowman. What do you do when it's melting quickly? You build this thing. Beautiful out there. We're talking about the 80s. If you haven't heard already, they are coming back. Just look at Matt Lorch's socks tonight. The 80s, even he's inspired. It's going to be really nice. Temperatures have been in the 50s over the last couple of days. And then you're going to show us your socks?
Yeah, I mean,
oh, you're going to see this. We're talking about the 80s. Oh, look at that. Is that not 80s? That's,
thank you for that.
We love.
Friday Night viewers know about your passion for turtles and tortoise. I guess you're in, right?
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm not a fan of turtles. I know a lot of people are. They're great.
Judgment. No
they
judgment.
Just don't have fur, as I've said in the past. So that's all. But, you know, $10 an hour for walking a turtle. That's not bad.
Why do you need fur?
Because fur is what makes the animal adorable. Thank you for asking. Wall, which again is where the more powerful winds are, is just 41 miles off the coast. So had this deviated just 30-40 miles, this would be completely different. We will be giving her home address out at the end of the show.
I read about people like
she has air conditioning.
Everybody's going to show up.
Yeah, we'll just find trees and shade, you know, how the rest of us have to do it.
Life isn't easy, is it?
It's not easy at all, especially for if you're my height, to find a tree taller than me in shade. It's a whole other story.
Nice to see the sun back.
Oh, it's beautiful out there. I tell you, any excuse you can make to get outside, you definitely want to do it, especially when the sun is out like this. And a wonderful way to kick off the weekend. Lots of us have plans this weekend. It's a holiday weekend, so beautiful. And you still have time to get out there and enjoy it. Even if you can't get out there right now, you know, the sun does not set till after 7 o'clock now, so you still have a couple of hours of clear skies. Enjoy it while it's here, though, because out to the west, here come the clouds. You can cue the Jaws music. It's coming back in overnight tonight, and eventually we will see some more scattered rainfall heading into tomorrow evening and throughout the day on Easter Sunday as well. But it's not going to be a washout, and that is good news. By the way, we've had quite a bit of snow in the mountains. Tonight, the snow level is going up, though, 4,500 feet. It's going to be dry anyway. Tomorrow, 5,500 feet, so it's going to have to drop back down to 3,000 feet, and that will happen late Saturday into Sunday. So if you are traveling over the passes for Easter, it's not going to be a downpour, but you will get a few more inches of snow kind of late in the season, but still very nice for skiers and snowboarders hoping to fit in maybe a couple of last runs of the season. 55 degrees in Seattle right now. That's about normal or average for this time of year. But here you see the changes coming in tomorrow. It's going to be very gradual. On the coast, you're going to be mostly cloudy from the time you wake up. But for Puget Sound, we'll kind of have a couple of hours of clouds, and then we'll see a nice clearing with sunshine, and then the clouds come back, and then the sun. It's going to be back and forth until tomorrow evening. That's when the rain moves in. Some of it will be heavy at times as that cold front pushes through. And then behind that, by the time Sunday morning rolls around, the air will gradually stabilize with that cooler air, but it will still take several hours. So off and on again showers Easter Sunday. Most of them will be light. And then Monday afternoon, this is where we kick off a stretch of weather that is unlike anything we have seen this year. In fact, it has been several months since we have seen this much sunshine and temperatures warming to near 70 degrees in some areas. That is on the way most of next week. It was a dark and stormy night, a cliche often used to begin a story, but in this case, it's actually true.
There was a storm that night. It was just before Labor Day weekend, and it rained, you know, very hard for Tacoma, Washington, and there was a lot of wind and power went out in certain neighborhoods.
It was August 31st, 1961. Anne Marie Burr and her family were hunkered down for the night.
It was kind of the last hurrah for the children in the family. Anne was the oldest of 4. She was 8.5. And a couple of the kids slept in the basement in their fort, but Anne and her little sister stayed in their bedrooms upstairs.
Anne's mother, Beverly, chained and locked the front door before going to bed. But when she woke up the next morning, her little girl was gone.
The front door of the house, which was locked with a chain from the inside, was standing wide open, and there was a window in the living room that had been opened from the outside. There was a bench pulled up to the window outside where somebody had stood on the bench and opened the window.
The bench that was leaned up against the side of the building, which subsequently was determined to have partial palm print on it. There was shoe print evidence that was near the point of entry. There was also a small quantity of biological material that was left at the point of entry as well, believed to be at least potentially from the suspect.
The best suspects in 1961 were a high school neighbor boy who was 2 houses away from Ann's house. Police questioned him a couple of times, and a couple of bean pickers from Oregon who'd come up to look for work.
There wasn't enough evidence to charge them. Ann's disappearance faded into memory until years later when police learned of Ted Bundy. He was just 14 when Ann disappeared and lived 2 miles away. Bundy had an uncle who lived in the neighborhood, and according to a family friend, Ted knew Ann.
She says that Ann used to be in the group of kids that sometimes played together, and that Ted was around, and that Ann liked to follow Ted around when he got his newspapers ready for, delivery in the afternoon.
Beverly wrote to Bundy asking if he kidnapped Ann. Time and time again, he denied it, writing, "I do not know what happened to your daughter and had nothing to do with her disappearance." But an interview he gave shortly before his execution cast grave doubts on his claim.
He basically told the story about, speaking in the third person hypothetically, about a very early crime where he took a young girl out of a house, sexually assaulted her in the orchard next door. There was an orchard next to the Burr house, and then left her in a deep ditch, and then watched the Burr parents and the police search.
Of course, Ted Bundy wasn't known for telling the truth and enjoyed playing games.
Have you ever physically harmed anyone?
Ever physically harmed anyone? No. No.
It's been half a century since Ann vanished, and some believe she may have been dumped in a ditch near her home while the University of Puget Sound construction was underway.
There was a day when I realized that it was, in the police report that Ann's father had come back from searching the college campus and gone to the police and said, you should look at those ditches up there where they're building buildings, because some are 30 feet deep with water. And 3 days later, it's in the police report, they've gone up to look at them and they've already been filled in and paved over.
Ann's parents passed away several years ago. Before she died in 2008, Beverly struggled with never knowing for sure what happened to her little girl.
I will say she didn't know what to think. There were times where she felt that it was probably likely that Ted had abducted Ann, and there were times where she thought it must have been somebody else.